Hello, this is Andrine, a Jewish American priestess, and I'm coming to you on the eve of Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is the day of mourning, one of the saddest days of Judaism, where we commemorate the destruction of the temple, both temples in fact, and a variety of other tragedies and calamities that happened over the course of time. And I'm going to do a reading today on the subject of Tisha B'Av. Again, this time of mourning where we think about the things in our lives that we hold sacred and how they become destroyed either by our own doing or by outside forces. And to that end, I'm going to do a Hebrune reading, which is a full spread reading. I'm going to pour all of them down on this casting cloth and see what comes up today. A way of focusing our grief, perhaps, today. What is it that we need to look at right now in our lives? And I'm just going to flatten these out so we can see what we have here. And the way I do a full spread reading is I take out each of the Hebrunes that are face down and leave the ones that are face up in the positions that they're in so that we can see what we're meant to see today. I've got one way over here on the right. I'm going to just scooch it in a bit. And that one stays just like this. Okay. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit to try to catch a closer look. All right. The way I read the Hebrunes, because I'm a native English speaker, I do tend to read left to right. And I know a lot of people read Hebrew from when they do a lot casting or the Hebrunes, they read from right to left because that's how Hebrew is read. But personally, I have taken to reading left to right because that is my way of reading. I look at the whole reading and I try to come to what the central line is and what the central issue is. And for this reading, as I look at this whole spread, this one again was way over to the side here. I'm going to say that the central is the letter Pei. We should start there. So the letter Pei is the letter that means a mouth. It is said to be the mouth of the divine speaking creation into existence. And I'll pull this up here so we can see it, but note here that it is underneath another Hebrune, and this is fascinating to me. This is the letter Pei, and you can see it looks a little bit like a mouth that is open, and it is communicating. It is speaking, using words to create. It's about communication and creation. And it was tilted slightly, but for the most part it's upright. Pei is the binary transformation of grace and ugliness. And I think of it in terms of what can we do with our words? How can we use our words to bring about more beauty in the world? Words can be used positively or negatively. And we have the ability to bless and express gratitude or to curse and complain. And when I think about grace and ugliness, I think about that continuum. How is it we can look at our situation and find ways to express gratitude and find the beauty in the situation rather than cursing that which we don't want to see? A lot of times when people pray, they pray, please make this thing go away, make an illness go away, or make a situation go away. But I find for me it is a lot more beneficial to consider what I would like to see and pray instead for the creation of that. And I know we're in this time of mourning, in this time of Tisha B'Av, where we are thinking about all the negative things that have happened. And I think that's important. It's important to grieve the things that we've lost. And at the same time, it's equally important to imagine a world where there isn't that kind of destruction, where we have the ability to be who we are without fear. And to that, I would say that the Pei is speaking to how can we create in the world what we'd like to see by using our imagination and speaking it into existence. And I think that's our central point here. And what's interesting about this for me being underneath the Ein Sof here is the Pei is the number 80 in Gematria. 8 being one more than the 7 days of creation speaks to this idea of the infinite, and 10 times 8 is that ultimate manifestation of infinity. And so Pei speaks to infinity, and the Ein Sof itself is the infinite, is that which is unseen, that which came before time, and that will come after time. So in the center here, right in the center of our reading, we have this idea of the infinite. We have two representations of the infinite, both the 80 in the Pei as well as the Ein Sof. The Ein Sof is boundlessness. It's that primordial chaos. It's the blank page onto which all the other letters are carved or written. So here in the center of our reading, we have this idea of timelessness and speaking beauty into the world. And again, we are looking at grief, and we're looking at destruction and the void that maybe is coming where nothing exists. But how can we find the beauty in that? How can we accept that that blank space that existed before time and will exist after time is in itself beautiful and something for which to be grateful? And that's the question that I have coming up as I step in toward this time of grief. Now we're going to go back to the left, all the way to the left, where we have, this is, if we look at this as a timeline, this is the furthest back. We have the letter Tzadi, and it's face down. You can see that it generally looks like this, but it is face down on our reading way far to the left. So the far, far, far past. We have the letter Tzadi has fallen. And Tzadi is the first letter of the word Tzadik, meaning righteous one, or Tzedek, meaning justice. And this is, again, face down, so something unjust has happened. Something has fallen, possibly the temple. Tzadi is the foundation of thought in the Sefer Yetzirah. It's about using the mind to create new things. And because it is so far back and because it is face down, I think about it as being sometimes our thoughts have led us astray. Certainly justice has been miscarried. Something has gone wrong. It's associated with tzedakah as well, which is sometimes translated as charity, but it's supposed to be about mutual aid. I think about it that way, like it's taking care of ourselves and each other when we're in a tight spot, not being greedy and withholding funds, withholding resources, but instead reaching out toward each other when justice is miscarried, when there's a problem. And Tzadi also represents the month of Shvat, which is the New Year of the trees. There's a holiday called Tu B'Shvat, which is the birthday of the trees. And to that end, it looks a little bit like a tree. You can see that it's got that idea of treeness with a ground here and the branches coming up. And it's also the tribe of Asher. Asher, which means happiness, but also sort of a shortened form of Asherah, which is the divine feminine that lives within the trees or is represented by the trees. And I think about this because we're talking about destruction of temples. You know, we're living on a planet that is our ultimate temple. And the trees are that which provide oxygen for us. So we have done something destructive to harm the trees, the earth itself, that which actually gives us oxygen to breathe. Some justice is miscarried here. Something has gone wrong, and we have destroyed more than we know in the distant past. And so there's grief here around that. The next letter that we come across here is the letter Hey, and it is also sort of face down. It has fallen on its face. Hey is about presence. It is the first letter of the word Hineni, which means here I am. When somebody is called in the Torah, the correct appropriate answer is Hineni, here I am. But again, face down, like we are unable to say Hineni. We're not available for that service, that something has gone wrong. And there's grief there too. Why can we not be present? Why are we unable to stand up and serve the planet, the divine, each other? That's happened also in our past, something also worth grieving. The letter He is also the letter that corresponds to the liver in the body. And the liver is that one organ in our body that helps to filter the blood. The liver is there to help our body discern what is toxic and what is not. It helps our body to filter out all the poisons that have come in. And when it's not functioning, when something has fallen down, we can't filter those toxins anymore. Something is wrong with your liver. That can be the end. The word for liver in Hebrew is keved. It's the same root of the word kavod, which means honor and glory. So there's something that's fallen down about our being honorable and giving glory to the divine, with our He being knocked over here. And that's problematic. That's cause for grief as well, that we don't have the honor that we used to have. Perhaps that there's this inability to discern what is toxic and what is not in our lives, in our environment. And it's causing poison on the earth, in the trees itself. The letter that I see up slightly above there in the reading is the letter Beit. And Beit is almost tipped over completely. It's like this. Beit usually looks like this. It is representative of a house, a home. And for me, Beit represents not just where we live in a building, but where do we live? We live in the earth. We live on the planet. And this planet is on its head. This planet has been harmed. Beit is the binary transformation of life and death. Many of the letters in the Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation, have a binary transformation, those that have the two sounds to them, like Beit and Vet. So Beit is the binary transformation of life and death. That chime is the sound of my random chime I have on my phone that helps me to remember that the divine is here with us. So we have the letter Beit turned on its head. It's our home. Our home is in peril. And this is problematic because we have harmed the trees, because we haven't been able to be present. We haven't been able to discern what is toxic and what is not. And so we have this problem with our home being damaged. Now when something's above the line like this being the central line here, this is supposed to be a positive thing. Since it's tipped over and above the line, it maybe speaks to a fear that we're encountering. That we have this fear that our home's damaged beyond repair. It's a valid fear, but it can also be about something happening inside of us, so internal conflict. And because the Beit speaks to home, it also can refer to our own bodies. So it's a possibility that right now there's some internal fear or internal concern about our own bodies, but our connection maybe from our bodies with the planet itself, that we have thoughtlessly damaged something in our environment that is causing our body to be injured, that perhaps because we are unable to filter out toxins, that we're afraid that we will be damaged permanently. And the thing that we can do right now is sit with that grief, sit with the concern, sit with how our bodies are literally connected to everything that we do externally on the planet. Down below the line, we have the letter Aleph, which is the first letter of the alphabet, and it is completely turned over as well. You can see the Aleph traditionally would look like this, and it is all the way over on its head, and it looks, it looks very similar upside right and upside down because it's got the Yud above and the Yud below, but we can tell with the stylized version that it is in fact upside down. And the Aleph is about connection and balance. It's about balance. It is the mother letter of air. And as we were speaking earlier about the trees and how they provide us with air, we're running into a problem. Because it's below the line, this has got the negative connotation of a problem. And since it's upside down, there's a grave fear about this issue, that our air is being polluted and we maybe, again, can't filter out the toxins properly. The Aleph is the connection of the divine above and the divine below, and our connection with it between. It also speaks to a crossroads, like we are traveling along this path and we have to make a decision. Will we change our ways? Will we transform? That we're at this tipping point. We're at this tipping point in the planet. We're at this tipping point in our lives where we get to make decisions about what direction do we go? Do we continue plowing forward thoughtlessly toward destruction? Or do we try to change directions even just a little bit? I think that's a really important question right now as we step into Tisha B'Av, the day of mourning. The next letter as we come along here is the Mem. And the Mem is another mother letter. There are 3 mother letters in Hebrew, Aleph, Mem, and Shin. And we have 2 of them in the reading here. And I think it's really wonderful and appropriate that we have the Mem here. The Mem, which is nearly upright. It's a little bit on its back, but it's nearly upright. It is the mother letter of water. The Mayim Chaim, the waters of life. And it's about transformation, using water to transform. Water can sculpt just about anything, either by a forceful blast or through the trickle of time. And Mem is the first letter of the word mikveh, which is about cleansing. It's a bath, the ritual bath. What do we do to cleanse ourselves, to make things right again, when things have become impure, when we have all these toxins in our bodies are impure, our earth has become impure. What do we do to rectify that? We go to the mikveh, we take the time to cleanse ourselves. Not just physically, not just going to a body of water and taking a bath, but spiritually as well. Making sure that there are no impurities in our minds, in our thoughts, in our emotions, and in our bodies. So that seems to be, since it's above the line, it seems to be one of the solutions to our problem here, is how do we clean the water? How do we find the cleansing within the water and that transformation that's going to come to help us through the situation? Mem is the number 40 in Gematria, and to that end it speaks to the 40 weeks of gestation in the human body. So we have this time of waiting, perhaps, that we are in this gestation period right now, that it's time to sit with the thing that is growing within us, this idea, this pure thing that is about to burst forth new into the world. So that's something to sit with right now as well. What are we gestating? How can we find cleansing and purity within that right now? The next letter in our reading up high here and also on its back, we have the letter Vav. It landed like this. Vav is a connection piece. It's about planting oneself firmly in the earth, rooting down like a taproot, but also reaching up toward the heavens for connection. Vav is literally the word and in Hebrew. And it's about standing tall and doing what's right. And it's about connecting oneself with the earth and with divinity above. And this landed on its back here today. Maybe we have been lying down on the job, but additionally, Vav is the number 6 in Gematria. And 6 is the 6th day of creation. It's the last day of active creation that took place in the Torah. And on the 7th day, the divine rested. And I see this Vav lying on its back, and it makes me think about rest. It makes me think it's almost time to rest. And since it's the highest letter in our reading today, maybe it's time to take this time, this Tisha B'Av, these 24 hours, and rest, to really consider all the things that we need to grieve, that it's okay to lie back and connect. It's okay to give ourselves permission. Things are almost coming to a completion. The number 6 is an almost completion letter. And so it's okay to take time to lie down and rest and feel connected. Maybe lay down on the earth itself if we can. If it's possible to get outside in the next day during this 24-hour period of Tisha B'Av and rest. Go to the earth. Find a place where you can lie back and really feel yourself connecting, your spine connecting with the earth. That might be really useful right now so that you can feel in your body how intricately you are connected to the earth, how intricately you are connected to the air and the water. That all of these elements are you and you are part of them, and it's important to care for them as if they were your own body, because in fact they are your own body. So that's the message I'm getting from the Vav up here, way high, lying on its back. And as we move into the future, what is yet to come, we have the letter Chet. And Chet is way up here in the future. This is not the near future, this is the far future. We have the letter Chet, and Chet, which normally looks like this, is lying down as well. This one seems to be lying on its back rather than on its face. If I think about it, this is face, this is back. The Chet is the number 8. So the infinite, again, that infinity loop that is the 8. We have the 80, we have the Ein Sof representing the infinite, and we have the Chet, the number 8, representing the infinite as well. And Chet is the first letter of the word Chai, meaning life. Life is a little bit topsy-turvy here. But it seems to be on the path line, maybe just a slightly lower. Something is coming that has life turned on its back. Chet is a chuppah. It's about contracts and covenants. A chuppah, which is a marriage canopy. And to that end, I think about it in terms of our connection with the divine, our connection, the covenants that we make with divinity. Maybe those have not been honored. Chet is the foundation of speech in the Sefer Yetzirah. And that's really interesting considering we also have the pei here, which is the mouth and how we speak things into the world. And Chet is the first letter of the word choshek, which means darkness. And it is the first time it appears in Torah, is in the word choshek. So it's a really important word. Life and darkness both start with Chet. When I think about that in terms of Tisha B'Av, we have the desire to live, I believe, as a species, as individuals. But we're also struggling with darkness. We're struggling with the darkness that exists within us. And those are not in conflict. Darkness is an important feature that allows us to see the light. But we need to speak life into the world. We need to choose life when given the option. We can bring light into the darkness. But again, without the darkness, we can't see the light. So with the chet up here in the future, again, it was flung all the way past our reading, even lying on its back. I think about chet as something, it's like a warning here. If this is the central part, this is a little lower than the central line. It's a warning here that if we don't do something to change what's happening in our world, if we don't do something to upright the aleph, that bring the air back into balance, to protect our home and our body, to maybe replant some trees and show up being present, if we don't do what we need to do to cleanse that which is toxic, our idea of infinity, speaking the world into existence that we would love to see rather than cursing that which we don't like to see, then in the far future we will have this darkness coming to us, that we will have a challenge maintaining our life, that the infinite will be a time of darkness. But we have the ability now. We have the ability now to lay on the earth, to connect, to find our health and cleansing right now. We have an ability to touch in with our bodies and really feel deep inside, again, connecting with the earth and cleansing what we can cleanse and speaking into existence that which we would love to see. We have the ability to do all of that and turn this chet upright again. So as we're sitting in this time of Tisha B'Av, where we're grieving the losses, the destruction of the temples, for sure, and the crusades and the Holocaust and all the lamentations that have occurred in the past, we also need to really think about what we can do now to change the future. You know, a lot of times people speak about, if I had a time machine, I'd go back in the past and change this, that, or the other thing. You're in a time machine. You have the ability to change now what will happen in the future. So be here now. Be present. Turn your hay upside right. Say, I am here ready for service. I am ready to do the cleaning and the cleansing I need to do. I'm ready to connect my body with the body of the earth. Speak what I'd like to see into existence. Honor the infinite, both the infinite in the sense of timeline, but also the infinite in the sense that the divine exists. Choose life. Go into the darkness, perhaps, for a period of time. The 24 hours we have here for Tisha B'Av. But when you come out, do what you can in this blank space, in this void that exists between the now and the future. And let's see what we can do to upright that chet, bring us back to life, so that we can use the darkness rather than simply resigning ourselves to the darkness. So, as we step into Tisha B'Av, I wish for you an easy fast, but adequate grief in order to really accept this entire picture and bring ourselves into a place of cleansing through the grief, that those tears that show up in the form of water will help to clean our hearts so that we'll have the ability to choose life in the future. Again, may you have an easy fast, and we'll see you on the other side.